Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel if you're new. I'm Dylan Reese, your 2019 New York State champion. I use the air quotes because that year the New York State Championship tournament was held in Buffalo, and there were 17 players in Open, 10 of which were from Buffalo, 4 from Rochester, 2 from over the border in Canada, and I was the only player coming from east of Rochester. So I was living in Syracuse at the time. I had a 3-hour drive that morning, went out and back one day, and I was really the only player that traveled any kind of distance to get to the tournament. And if you go back through the years, that's been pretty typical of the state championship the past at least 10 years. It's usually just a local tournament. You get 1 or 2 guys from outside the region maybe, but otherwise it's just been a local tournament that we call the state championship. And that was what kind of led me to this idea of having a more statewide contest. And I've been thinking about this for a few years, and what we've come up with is the Match Play Madness. So without further ado, let's take a look at the sites and get into some of the details.
Okay, so one of the issues with having a statewide tournament in New York is New York's a pretty big state, and it's hard to travel if you're at one end or the other. I was lucky enough to be living pretty centrally, so I've played in a lot of different regional tournaments over the years. And it's not always financially, there's no financial incentive to travel from Buffalo to Long Island for the New York State Championship if it's the winner's going to get a few $100s. A lot of open players are, looking for those bigger paydays if they're going to be traveling that far. So those are two of the things I tried to address with this idea. Ideally, you're not going to have to travel very far unless you make it to the finals. And hopefully, if we get a full field here, it'll be a pretty big payout for the final 4 players. So hopefully we can entice people from all over the state that are good players to get into this. With the winner getting 15, everyone making the final 4 is going to get 500. So hopefully that'll entice everyone to roll the dice on traveling potentially out to Rochester for the finals. So let's go through the sites real quick here. You can see the round 1 sites are in purple. So we've got the Niagara region. The round 1 site is going to be at Bond Lake, and then round 2 and 3 at Emory. And then the Genesee region, first round at Shadow Pines, second and third round at Chili. And then if you make it through that third round, the Genesee region winner and the Niagara region winner will play at Shore Winds in the regional final. Then moving over to the Finger Lakes, we've got round 1 at Ironwood, and then rounds 2 and 3 at Denison. And they'll be facing off the winners of the Syracuse area, the Seneca region. Round 1 will be at Clay West, round 2 and 3 at Van Buren. And then for the regional finals of the Finger Lakes region will be at Hope Lake outside Cortland. The Catskill region is pretty spread out. We'll have the Chemung River area, the Chenango River area will be round 1 at Nathaniel Cole, and then round 2 and 3 at Campville. And then they'll be facing off kind of the Discap area. Round 1 will be at Jay Park, and then round 2 and 3 will be at Christ the King. And they'll face off in the regional final at Minekill. And then moving down to the metro area, we've got the Hudson division. Round 1 will be at Kisco, rounds 2 and 3 at Warwick, and they'll face off against the Long Island winner. Long Island's only going to have 1 course for all 3 rounds. Heckscher Beach is really the only I would say tournament caliber course in that area. So all 3 rounds in the Long Island area will be at Heckscher, and then they'll face off in the regional final at FDR. And so the regional winners from the metro area, the Catskill area, Finger Lakes, and Great Lakes. Sometime in the fall, we'll coordinate with all the players who win the regionals. We'll play at Parma on the Disc Golf Pro Tour layout that's currently being redesigned. So it should be a good layout to test the best players. Okay, so obviously there's a big gap there. The Adirondacks aren't represented in those locations. It's kind of unfortunate, but I looked through the player base and where the courses are, and there's really not a lot of top level competitors playing in Northern New York right now. I think in the future, the Adirondacks will be included in this, but for right now, I picked the locations based on where I thought we would get a full field. Okay, let's take a look at the bracket. This is the 64 player bracket with all the locations I just went over. Each round, the players are going to have a full month to complete. So starting in May, you'll have the month of May to complete the first round, June and July for the second and third round. The regional finals will be in August, and then we'll figure out with the final 4 players when they want to come to Parma. We'll try to not conflict with anything else and get everyone to travel out to Parma for the finals. So the way I'm going to do the seeding is when you register, you're going to be registering for one of these regions named after the predominant river in the area. So the 8 players in the Genesee area will be generally seeded by their PDGA rating. If I think some players have a inflated rating due to only playing a few tournaments, that might be taken into account. But generally, your PDGA rating is going to be how the groups are seeded. And speaking of the ratings, we'll get into the registration, how we're going to do that. So here's the registration schedule. The whole idea with this was to have the best players compete. So we're going to do a tiered registration. You can see here starting March 1st, I'm going to open the registration to PDGA ratings over 980. And big thing, first week it's going to be New York State residents only. If it doesn't fill in the first week, I'll open it up to anybody. But for the beginning, it's going to be New York State residents only. So March 1st, PDGA rating over 980. 2 days later, March 3rd, ratings over 960. 2 days after that, over 940. 1 day after that, March 6th, over 920. March 7th, over 900. And then March 8th, it's going to be open registration, no rating restrictions, and open to anyone outside New York as well. I just want to mention one thing with this. Since this is not a PDGA event, the disc golf scene registration is not tied in with the PDGA ratings database. So I'm going to be hand checking all of these, so to speak. So please, if you're not rated over 980, don't try to register the first day. It's technically, it's not going to prevent you from registering, but if you do register with a rating under 980, I'm going to refund you, and you're going to be out a few bucks of the PayPal fees and whatnot. Again, I'll include links to the registration, links to the Facebook group that we'll have some discussions in about the play going forward. And we've got a Google document with some of the ground rules as far as how the play is going to go. But if you got any questions, get in touch with me, and hopefully we'll have a real strong field of competitors, and we'll have an exciting finals in the fall. See y'all later.